logically, as opposed to whoever they put in front as a popular face and how much money they spend on their campaigns, you know?
So this brings us back, I suppose, perfectly towards the end of our conversation to where we started. Our politics is broken, man. Political parties the world over have got too much power in society. I think instead of like us voting on the basis of reading manifestos, we have a far more fundamental, urgent question to deal with as citizens. And that is to ask ourselves, how can we diminish the power of political parties in the world?
Jeez.
Because political parties are not serving us. So, should you feel guilty that he is accusing you of not reading manifestos? Not really, because the political class have turned out to be a disappointment as a class anyway. I think the more interesting question we can maybe tackle on another forum as a question that deserves 2 hours of its own is, how can citizens wrestle back power from the political class?
Are the politicians not consolidating power with what we saw with the lockdown and COVID? It looks like they're actually consolidating, and it's going to get worse.
I've been watching the World Economic Forum, and
Yes.
what they're voting for, it looks like for me, is for them to be on the verge of saying, there's a pandemic, and
Shut down.
then there's a shutdown and lockdown, and there's certain rules that take place, and then the country goes not on autopilot, but WHO comes to take over for that period of time. Do we still have sovereignty, or do countries in the world still have sovereignty based on what the world leaders are currently voting for at the World Economic Forum?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the question then back to us is, are we going to write strongly worded letters to the editor, or are we going to get involved in the political processes and contest for political power? Or, as civil society broadly construed, are there different ways in which we can rearrange the affairs of the state? But whatever we do, the status quo isn't working for us.
Sure.
You know, and just because you were born into a world in which political parties exist doesn't mean that it must always be like that. And the reason why I punted Songezo Zibi's new book Manifesto,
Sure.
not because it's perfect and it's going to be a silver bullet. It just opens up conversations.
Sure.
And it agitates us to remain uncomfortable with our own retreat and our own silence.
Sure. I want to ask you a personal question, and I hope you can give a summary. The ordinary citizen out there who wants to take back their power, what can they do today? Because I say things like get weapons. What do you think, in your personal opinion, people should start doing now? Before we have the conversations and we come up with a plan, but just what can I do today to rely less on government?
Oh, that's...
I know you said it's a broader question.
No, it's not a broad question. It's a very precise question.
No, I mean, there's a broader conversation.
There's
Sorry.
conversation to be had.
Sure.
The reason why the question doesn't have a pithy answer is because the government has a monopoly on tax collection,
Yes.
creating laws and policies, and using lawful force. And so the question of being independent of government always makes me a little bit uncomfortable, because government doesn't deserve us to try to be independent of it, given how much of our money they have and how much lawful power they have to create laws and policies, and how much of the security in the country they control and that they can use against us and repress us, even in a democracy.
Sure.
So there are many things we can do privately, and we do it as the middle class anyway. We opt out of the state by sending our kids to private schools,
Yes.
by getting ADT, high-tech in Grahamstown.
It is high tech.
Jeez, by having Discovery behind us in case we get ill.
Sure.
We do that anyway.
By forming the AfriForum.
Afri forums and whatnot.
It's
Exactly.
It's a
Yeah.
parallel
Yeah.
existence.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and politicians, to your point, Sabu, exactly, they love that, because it entrenches, it consolidates their arrogance and their hubris and their lack of regard for citizens.
Sure.
A looting politician would love us to spend the afternoon answering the question, what can I do to be independent of the state?
Sure.
Because it gives them more space to continue to eat at the trough.
Sure.
So I'm dodging your question, but I hope I've justified why.
Sure. No, I hear you. No, thank you. It was just my personal, because I know we're speaking ESCOM now, going off grid. You've mentioned the example of the private space we're a democracy, where school is free in this country. People don't know that. School is free in this country. So when you're paying school fees, you're paying an additional tax. Healthcare is free in this country. So if you've got medical aid and you're, and for me, part of the sadness is the same political class has shares in that parallel system. So not only do they bully us with the social welfare, which has gotten bigger, where almost half of the country now is earning some form of a grant, but additionally, they also make money from the private. So you'll pay tax to the politician, and you'll also spend money for private services that he has shares in. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
I think it's been incredible. I don't know how much time he has. For me, I don't mind going on.
I can't believe how long we've been speaking.
I know, bro.
Because whenever I look at your episodes, I'm like, these episodes are long. But time flies once you're inside the conversation.
Yeah.
Sure.
Somebody sent in a comment on one of our episodes and said they even gave us the number of hours they spend since this year started on our podcast. But then they're also saying how much value they've extracted from this podcast.
Yeah. That's great, man. That's really,
and I think
awesome.
that's really, really awesome. And it also shows you where the world is right now. People are willing to spend their data where it's worthwhile.
Sure.
Absolutely.
True value. True value. After this episode, for example, people are going to be thinking, I hope people will be thinking. Eusebius, I think in a lot of the answers he gave, is very passionate about getting people to think differently. More than telling them what to do, it's just open up your thinking and process slightly better, more refined. So people enjoy that, because it's not, here, eat this. It's, you know what, have you considered playing around here?
Yeah.
And for that mental stimulation is powerful. So thank you from my side.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Abafana base roads.
I think
Abafana base Makan.
Do you know what I'm going to do? Let's leave it here.
Sure.
So that we can open up for part 2.
Yes. I'm looking forward to some of the comments, to some of the conversations.
Yes, that's what I was about to say, that if this was live, us getting comments and hearing what people are saying, we could go on.
Sure.
But I think maybe let's pause and let's absorb what they're saying. Let him read also the comments.
Let's do that, yeah.
And let's give it another couple of months.
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe summertime or early next year as well. Not even next year, a few months down the line.
Sure. Oh, if we do it in summer, what excuse will we have for the blankets?
So let's do a part 2.
Daunting, and I just want to say from my side, sitting with 2 radio legends, I'm inspired. Yes, there's a community out there, but I'm also just a gent. I'm also learning, and I appreciate the 2 of you for sharing information about an industry some of us know nothing about. So thank you for that very much from my side. And I appreciate the wisdom. And as you said, both of you are mavericks. The ability to evolve, which I'm hoping some of your peers are going to learn from and be like, I once sat watching Eusebius and Sbu, and I was like, maybe I mustn't just hog this thing, and I must be malleable.
Sure.
And move with the times, because there's an audience out there. There's different things out there. So if my objective is to get to people and add value to them, let me be teachable. But from my side, thank you so much to both of you.
No, thank you.
And especially to you, Eusebius, for being our guest today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So before he leaves, let me just say this quickly. Because I've worked on Metro, on Ukozi, and
you're an ancestor.
He is. That's why he looks like this, like a
but
tree.
I'm still 10 years younger than Oskibo. 10 years younger than Mahuta. 10 years younger than TJ. I'm still a lighty, bro.
Jeez.
But let me just mention this. So because of the culture where I come from in radio, and the politics and the competition, and rightfully so, and understanding how the industry used to operate then, you wouldn't just easily be a YFM DJ and get an interview on Metro, or you wouldn't just easily be a 702 guy and just be, you know what I mean? So my first 702 interview was him.
Sure.
And it wasn't just an interview to come and talk about an album I was dropping, to come and talk about More Fire. He invited me on his show, and he didn't give me just 5 minutes.
Sure.
He gave me a long period of time to come and express our work as the Sibusiso Lope Education Foundation and the impact that we're doing in the communities.
Sure.
So for him to recognize the work we're doing at that time, and for him to bring in a personality that was on another radio station, and his bravery to be able to do that, he was not even aware. I was just a guest.
Sure.
I just want you to know, thank you, bro.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything you've done in the industry.
Thanks
for having me on.
This is the Hustler's Corner. What's with the bottle?
Shoot the other day, about Ingolosi yao. Boom, purely one, but that's something I've never seen before. Okay, right, starts walking, it's following the signs. Yo. Maga figure out, since they've been waiting for him. It was never about the wings, Mfano. It's the fire in you. Yeah?